Hello, I'm Isaac, and I realise that this is kind of the first time that I'm saying hi. I make audiobooks, and you guys hopefully listen to them. I'm making this video today because I've not publicised about it, but I have been demonetised for something that is called reused content. Meaning that pretty much YouTube believes that I don't maybe make my own content, or my content is too similar to maybe other content. And I made an appeal and it was rejected, so I'm here making this video so that I can show you guys how I make my audiobooks to provide YouTube enough, say, reason to allow me to remonetize my channel and allow me to get paid for doing something I put a lot of work into and get paid for doing something that I absolutely love. Really nothing makes me happier or brings me in this much joy than making these audiobooks. So, the next book that I am reading is H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds. And something I didn't do for ages, and which I'm realising wasn't amazing, but I learnt, and that's what we do on this platform. First step in making any audiobook, step one, read the book. It's really helpful to read the book before you get into it. So, yeah, read the book. Because not only do you realise that the book is really good, it's a really good book, guys, and I really hope that you listen to it, because it's really good. I understand why it stood the test of time. However, it is not the first science fiction book. It was written nearly 100 years after Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, and she is a god to all of us. Blessed she be. Rest her soul. Read the book. Because it not only gives you context for what you're reading, it also allows you to get properly invested into the book, get excited about the book, which comes across in your timbre as you're reading. If I grab the book, and I just read it like thus: "After the glimpse I had had of the Martians emerging from the cylinder in which they had come to Earth from their planet, a kind of fascination paralysed my actions. I remained standing, knee-deep in heather, staring at the mound that hid them. It was a battleground of fear and curiosity." That's a lot less fun and a lot less impactful and difficult to just sight read than if I go, "After the glimpse I had had of the Martians emerging from the cylinder in which they had come to Earth from their planet, a kind of fascination paralysed my actions. I remained standing knee-deep in the heather, staring at the mound that hid them. I was a battleground of fear and curiosity." It's got a lot more impact, knowing what I'm going into, knowing how I'm going to read the sentences, and for books like this, for pretty much all the books I've done, where they've got characters, they allow me to establish who the characters are, so I can give them proper voices. I hope that you can't hear that music in the back. It's real frustrating. There's a guy next door and he's playing bass music, but I can't record any at the time. So, read the books first. It helps a lot in one of the books that helped me get monetized, really, The Grapes of Wrath, because pretty much everyone in America has to read this book, which I wholeheartedly understand. It's a fantastic book, and I highly recommend that you listen to it. Don't watch it, listen to it. It allowed me to get monetized, and it is an amazing book, but I didn't read it before recording the audiobook, and it would have saved me so much trouble if I had, because those chapters are like an hour long. At some points, especially chapter 26, which I released in 6 segments because it's so long, especially for YouTube. In podcast format, I think I'll maybe do it in one lump, because you can just press play, stop, and it'll do its thing and it'll send you back to where it is. But on YouTube it worked so much better to separate it at certain points. But the chapters are super long. But if I'd gone in and I'd read the book beforehand, like I did with Animal Farm, which I need to redo because the quality's not amazing, because I did it just on my laptop's microphone. I've done now with War of the Worlds. I did with Frankenstein, which is coming out soon, fingers crossed. And I did for The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is coming out real soon. Or maybe already out, I don't know when I'm publishing this. Anyway, I would have saved so much time in character creation, in editing time, my god, and everything. I would have saved so much time So I've started reading all my books beforehand because it allows me to have a better understanding of the characters, their wants, their needs, and thus create better voices and better characters for you to listen to. And it also allows me to save a bunch of time in recording, because I make fewer mistakes because I've read it before, and in editing because, again, I make fewer mistakes. Step number 2 in making audiobooks. Now that you've read them, you know who the characters are. You know that there's Tom Joad, you know that there's sort of Mrs. Joad, Tom's mum, there's Pa, there's Reverend Casey. He's my favourite, one of my favourite voices. I love Reverend Casey. But you understand the characters, so read the books beforehand. With this book, The War of the Worlds, there's quite a lot of characters going on, and what I quite like to do is create a little background log of all the characters that I have. So, for example, in Frankenstein, I had a little folder on my computer and I had little character references for attributes that the characters have. So, for example, I had something for Victor Frankenstein. He was very curious, he was very intrigued in how the world works, but he was very studious and a little bit anxious and sickly. So I thought, well, what type of voice can he have? So, naturally, I gave him a slightly younger voice, a bit more childish in a sense, because he's got that almost childlike wonder. But I think it really worked. And then also forcibly German accent, because he's Swiss. So when I created the voice for Victor Frankenstein, I had it be a little bit higher, because he is on the younger side, especially when we start the book. And I had it be a little bit more jumpy, because he was a little sickly, but he was also very excited. So this is the sort of character voice that I had, and I had that in a folder. So this is the accent I was able to come up with thanks to those attributes that I had written down. And I think it worked really well, because I had to read 26 whole chapters with this voice. It was difficult, it was a long process, but had I not read the book, it would have taken much longer. So something that helps me in this process of creating character attributes and whatnot, apart from just reading the book, is I'll go to websites, I'll just Google it. SparkNotes has been amazing for this. The majority of the books on SparkNotes, they've always got little synopses of characters, little character analyses, and I can go in there and I can find things that maybe I didn't get on the first read through, and I'll add those to my notes. So, for example, here there's multiple characters in the War of the Worlds. There's the artilleryman, there's the curate, there's the narrator's brother, the narrator's wife, the narrator, Ogilvy, Henderson, the landlord, smitterings of others. And after I've got these summaries of the characters, I can then go through and think, well, great, with their background, how would they sound taken historical context? A lot of the time, there's a lot of historical context that can go into these books, like the time it was written, the time it's based in. So many things can come out of that, which is really, really helpful. So, for example, I've got here the artilleryman. He's an army man. He most likely wasn't super highly educated, so I could give him more of like a London-style accent. That would work. Not an old voice. A little rough, but that's just in pretending to be a tough man. The curate. Most people of the church, they were a little bit more posh, so when going through the book, I could have him sound a bit like this. So he's very regal, he's, older man, so he's got a little bit of crackle that comes through his voice. And maybe this is the voice that I end up with. I've not 100% settled on it, but I can go through and I can record those later. He sounds a bit like, politician, doesn't he? He's very politician, isn't he? And the narrator, purely because it's easy, because this book, like Frankenstein, but unlike Frankenstein, because it's not set in Germany, is written in the first person. So for me, what's really easy for that is I can read it in my own voice, just to save me, because reading a 26 chapter long book in a German accent was super difficult, and it made my life, it made my throat very sore. I drank a lot of tea with honey. Step 3, record the audio. For this, I think it would probably be better if we go downstairs to my studio, which is in my laundry. Don't judge me, I got demonetized, I can't afford a studio. Remonetize me, please. So, this is my studio. Sorry, it's a little echoey in here. I didn't realise it would be this echoey. It's the only microphone I've got for my camera, however, so hopefully it's not atrocious. It's probably going to be bad. I'm sorry. So, step 3, record the audiobook. So, I currently record all of my audiobooks in Audacity. It's a brilliant free program, and it's actually super powerful and really basic, but really, really good, especially when starting out and you can't exactly afford other programs. I've recently bought SoundForge by Sony, and I'm learning how to use it. It's a little bit of a learning curve on it, especially compared to Audacity, because it's pretty much you just hit record and away you go. But I'm working on it, and it's really good, and hopefully it will improve all of my content for you, which is why I got it in the first place. I really want to improve my content for you. When I record, I actually don't use the paper books that I purchase when I read them, because it's easier to record. I have less editing of paper sounds to cut out, and it's quite easy to do because all the books that I record are in the public license, so it makes it really easy to find copies online. Planet ebook has been amazing, and there's also just a smattering of other websites like Alexandria Project, something like that, the Library of Alexandria, something like that. There's a really good website out there, and it's got a bunch of books on it. It's fantastic. Find your books online. They're really easy. But also support your local bookstores. They do a lot of hard work and they don't get as much love as they should. They're great. But I record on my screen because it's easier. I've got my recording software here. I've got my book just right next to me, so I just look in one direction and away I go. I record into this toner microphone. It's, again, a beginner microphone, but when I started I was a beginner, and microphones are expensive, but I've got my eyes on a couple that I'm gonna hopefully test out in the soonish future. Depends on if I get remonetized. Please, YouTube. Please. I then have what I think the majority of YouTubers have, or at least a lot, especially a couple of years ago, have. I've also got the Focusrite Scarlett audio interface, which is fantastic, and I think you can really hear the difference in the quality that that has going between my version of 1984, which I'm also considering re-recording, not just Animal Farm, because, again, not the greatest, audio quality-wise. Book-wise, amazing. My voice is amazing, but recording quality was a little bit so-so. So I'm maybe going to do that again. Let me know if you would like me to redo it down below. But you can really hear the difference going between 1984 and the Picture of Dorian Gray, or if you want as well, there's The Great Gatsby, and those are sort of the main books where I really fiddled with it and tried to nail in my settings for this environment, which is literally the laundry. There's a washing machine right behind the camera. I'm in the laundry. There's a curtain behind me that separates me from the living room. That's it. But it's a smaller space, and it meant that I had to buy less sound panels to cancel out the noise. But we're here. We're in the audio room. I hit record, and I sit down. And generally, for the majority of the books, it takes about double the time that you'll see. So say a chapter that I publish onto YouTube is 30 minutes long, you can probably assume that the recording that I've got prior is an hour long. And from there I listen through, edit out the mistakes and whatnot. I'll re-record certain lines if I don't think the voice was right. And I've got files on my computer as well for books where I've got my initial reading of the character voice, that first line that they say, and that is the line I use, so that I can guarantee that all of the voices throughout the entirety of the audiobook stay the same. And especially when I was not really creating character profiles, like in The Grapes of Wrath, I've just got this file that's called Character Refs, and it's got all of the Jode family, it's got Casey, it's got the other sort of recurring characters in them, and they're just really helpful, so I can listen to the voice, try and tone in, say the line a couple of times to myself, and then say the piece of dialogue. So that at the end I can just sort of slip in and out of Tom Joad, especially in a book that's like 30 chapters long. Going through the entirety of that book, I can just, even now, sort of a year later, I can just jump into Tom Joad and it's right there in my head. But having those there, those little references, those really help, and they streamline the process quite a bit. But yeah, pretty much every audio book that I've read, double the time easily has gone into recording it, especially before I started reading the books prior to hitting record. So, we then got step 1, read the book. Step 2, know the characters. Step 3, hit record. Step 4, edit. The editing process is easily the longest part of this. Not only do I need to edit out any mistakes that I've made in the recording process, I'm a stutterer. It helps reading directly from something, but I tend to stutter quite regularly, and I'm amazed that I'm getting it this far into this video. It's a reason why I don't do a lot of video format, just because I stutter. So I have to edit those out. I have to edit out any other mistakes, which can happen quite a bit. There are some books where it's difficult to make out whether it's one character speaking or the other, so sometimes I'm just reading dialogue in two voices and then going through again with the book and thinking, okay, it's this character, then this one, then this one, then this one. These are the voices they have available. Is it right? Is it not right? Do I have to record it again? Yes, damn. Okay, re-record, re-edit, go through. And then I re-listen to the audiobook to make sure I've not missed anything, which I didn't do in the past, and it's caused me to have a few mistakes, but I do it now. I'm very diligent about it, and you can guarantee that when the podcast goes out, or that when any of the other videos go out, everything has been guaranteed to not have any little errors in it. I promise you. And then I remove the background noise, I compress the audio, I add a limiter to the audio, I do my EQ, and then it's kind of ready to go out. But easily the editing process takes 2 to 4 times longer than the recording process. The longest chapter that I think I've ever recorded is chapter 26 of The Grapes of Wrath. It's, I think, broken into 6 parts on my YouTube channel. It's long, but the recording process of that was like 2 hours, and the editing process of just that chapter was like 8 to 10 hours long. It really took ages, and I just hope that it paid off, because I really love that chapter. I really love that chapter. It's a good one. Please listen to it. It's great. Listen to the whole book. It's brilliant. It's really stood the test of time. Bit racist at times. Yeah, the past was the worst. As of late, and I hope you've seen it and appreciated it, because she's fantastic. I employ an artist friend of mine called Valentina. Her Instagram is here. It's at valenangel96, and she's fantastic. She designs comics. She's a comic book artist, and I get her to do a little comic for each book that I record. And it's just to help you guys a bit, it's to help me a bit, it's just, I think, a really great way to not only support my friend, who I really want to succeed, but it's a great way to help introduce the book. So she'll draw the comic, and then she'll send me the comic, and I'll turn it into a little video intro format thing. And I'll use that with some music that I find in the YouTube library, the YouTube Studio library, which is thankfully full of a bunch of great free music for creators on YouTube. And then I'll put it into video format, which is actually, I think, the shortest process of this whole thing. I edit in DaVinci Resolve, and I think all creators should, because Adobe software sucks, purely because subscription plans suck. DaVinci Resolve's got 2 plans. You can either buy it for one flat rate and you own it forever, and future updates you don't pay for either, which is amazing. Or you can get a free version, which is fantastic. Pretty much just as powerful as the paid version, you just have less access to certain pre-made effects and whatnot, but being primarily audio-based, I don't really need those. Yeah, no, DaVinci Resolve, amazing, and free! Use it, it's super powerful. My uncle, he edits documentaries, he edits in DaVinci Resolve. It's super, super good. But I'll put those into video format, and I'll add my intro, I'll add some music, I'll add my book, and then I'll add my outro, the same music again, and then I'll listen to the book again, because I want to guarantee that you're having the best listening experience possible. It's really important to me. I think books should be everywhere and really accessible, and if my content sucks, you're probably not going to listen to more, and it's a shame that you won't, because the books that I'm recording are amazing and should be listened to by everyone, or read by everyone at least. Don't listen to me if you don't want to, that's fine. And then I hit export, and I upload to YouTube, which, with my internet, takes a long time. I need fiber. Yeah, certain chapters taking like a couple hours to upload, which is difficult. But then my chapters are out there. The book is out there, and hopefully you guys click listen. I really hope you've enjoyed this little insight into how I make my books, and I really hope that it allows me to get remonetized, because I put so much work into this, and you know, I work a full-time job along the side, and I only do this when I can, and when I can isn't enough. I would love to do it more, but to finally have attained that goal of being paid for it, and to then have that taken away because someone out there thinks that these books aren't made by me, or whatever the heck their reasoning is, it's a real gut punch, and doesn't quite seem fair, because surely if my content was monetizable in the first place, it's monetizable now. But yeah, so this is how I make my audiobooks. Once again, I thank you for listening. And until next time, bye-bye.